The Galactic Senate chamber could hold 12,000 beings comfortably. Today it held nearly 15,000 packed into every available space. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the petitioner's podium, her hands steady despite the weight of what she carried. Around her, delegates from 900 member species watched with expressions ranging from boredom to barely concealed contempt. She had rehearsed this presentation for 6 weeks. Every word had been vetted by linguists, strategists, and political analysts. The holographic displays behind her showed the smoking ruins of New Prosperity Colony, 8,000 human civilians dead in a single afternoon. Honored members of the Galactic Senate, Elena began, her voice amplified but not loud enough to mask the shuffling and murmuring that rippled through the chamber. I come before you with an urgent petition. The Kryloth Dominion has attacked 7 human settlements in 4 months. 42,000 civilians are dead. Another 100,000 refugees have fled their homes. We formally request Senate authorization for military intervention under Article 12 of the Mutual Defense Protocols. The murmuring grew louder. Several delegates weren't even pretending to pay attention anymore. Senator Vrianale, the Senate's current chair, leaned forward from his elevated position. The insectoid diplomat's mandibles clicked in what Elena had learned was amusement. Ambassador Vasquez, Vrianale said, his translator rendering his speech into standard Galactic. Humanity has been a Senate member for 180 years. In that time your species has contributed. What is the current count? He made a show of consulting his datapad. Yes. 150 patrol vessels to the collective defense fleet. The Kryloth Dominion commands 73,000 warships. Laughter echoed through the chamber. Not polite chuckles, but genuine mirth at the absurdity of Earth's position. With respect, Senator, Elena said, fighting to keep her voice level, those 150 vessels represent only our peacekeeping contribution, not our full. Not your full capacity, yes. Vrianale waved a chitinous appendage dismissively. We understand, Ambassador. Humanity is still developing its industrial base. Your species means well, but you simply lack the resources for serious military operations. This is not an insult, merely an acknowledgement of reality. More laughter. Elena saw the Kryloth delegation, massive, armored beings who resembled Earth's ancient dinosaurs, watching with predatory interest. Their lead representative, War Master Threxvor, showed rows of crystalline teeth in what passed for a smile among his kind. Elena's datapad vibrated. A message from Earth's Defense Command. Don't push too hard. We need them to refuse officially. She closed her eyes briefly. They knew this would happen. They had planned for it. But standing here, being mocked while images of dead children played on the screens behind her, made it hard to remember the strategy. Senator Vrianale, she said, choosing her words carefully, I need to be very clear about something. Earth is not requesting intervention because we lack military capability. We are requesting it because we want to follow proper protocols. For 180 years, humanity has abided by the Peaceful Integration Accord. We limited our military presence in galactic space voluntarily. But these limitations can be revoked if... How quaint, interrupted Senator Pelvita, an amphibious delegate from the water worlds. The humans think they're being polite by pretending to be strong. Ambassador, your homeworld maintains no shipyards capable of capital ship construction. Your largest vessel is a transport carrier. These are facts in our database. Your database is incomplete, Elena said quietly. The chamber fell silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then the laughter returned, louder than before. Senator Vrianale stood, his full height making him tower over the podium. Ambassador Vasquez, this Senate appreciates your passion. However, the Kryloth situation will be resolved through diplomatic channels. Humanity's patrol fleet is adequate for your current defensive needs. Your petition for military intervention is denied. He paused, his mandibles clicking in a more serious rhythm. However, in light of your losses, the Senate extends its deepest sympathies. We also formally censure the Kryloth Dominion for these attacks on civilian populations, which violate Senate law. War Master Threxvor rose from his seat. His voice was a rumbling bass that needed no translator. Censured? I am devastated. His sarcasm was evident even across species barriers. The session ended. Delegates began floating or walking or slithering toward the exits, already discussing other matters. To them, humanity's plight was a minor inconvenience, barely worth the hour they'd spent in session. Elena remained at the podium watching them leave. She felt hollow. 42,000 dead, and the galaxy's response was sympathy and a censure that meant nothing. You gave them their chance. Admiral Chin Rodriguez appeared beside her, having descended from the observation gallery. The Admiral was a compact woman in her 50s, her dark hair shot through with gray, her eyes carrying the weight of command. "I failed," Elena said. "No. You gave them the opportunity to do the right thing. They refused. What happens next is on them, not you." Elena looked at the Admiral. "How many, Chin? How many ships do we actually have?" Chin smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Walk with me." They moved through the corridors of the Senate complex, past delegates from hundreds of worlds. No one paid them any attention. Humanity was a minor player, barely worth noticing. Chin led Elena to a secure briefing room. The walls hummed with dampening fields that prevented any electronic surveillance. Inside, a holographic display showed something that made Elena's breath catch. "This is the UNSC Leviathan," Chin said, gesturing to the massive ship rotating slowly in the display. 5 kilometers long. Crew complement of 12,000. Weapon systems that could crack a moon. She's been hidden behind Jupiter for 60 years, disguised as a failed terraforming station. Elena stared. "How many ships like this do we have?" 42 dreadnoughts. 320 battleships. 2,000 cruisers. 15,000 destroyers and frigates. 23,000 support vessels. Chen's voice was matter-of-fact, as if she were reading a grocery list. Plus 3 million active-duty personnel and 200 million reserves. That's... Elena couldn't find words. About 40,000 combat-capable vessels, yes. Hidden in plain sight across 800 star systems. We've been building them for 180 years, since the day we signed that damned accord. Elena sank into a chair. They have no idea. None. They see our patrol boats and think that's all we've got. They categorized our shipyards as civilian infrastructure, because that's what we told them they were. Every mining station around Saturn, every research facility, in the Kuiper Belt, every commercial hub, we built in the colonies, they're all dual purpose. Or in many cases, purely military facilities with a civilian cover. Why didn't we tell them? Elena asked. Why hide all of this? Chen's expression darkened. You weren't in the diplomatic corps yet when first contact happened, were you? No. That was before my time. The Vrixian scout fleet encountered one of our patrol groups near Mars. They attempted an unauthorized deep scan of Earth without permission. Standard procedure for them, invasive as hell for us. Our patrol commander disabled 17 Vrixian ships in 90 seconds using electromagnetic pulse weapons. Non-lethal, surgical strikes. We were trying to establish boundaries without causing casualties. Chin pulled up historical footage. Elena watched as Vrixian vessels went dark, one after another, their crews unharmed but their ships completely powerless. The Vrixians panicked, Chin continued. They thought we'd just demonstrated some kind of superweapon. In reality, we'd used relatively basic EMP technology. But the effect scared them badly enough that they reported back to the Galactic Senate that Earth had aggressive first contact protocols and weapons capable of neutralizing entire fleets. So the Senate almost went to war with us? Close enough. There were emergency sessions. Military mobilizations. 3 species wanted to launch a preemptive strike against Earth before we could become a threat. It took 2 years of intensive diplomacy to convince them we weren't hostile. Elena understood now. And the price of that diplomacy was the Peaceful Integration Accord. Exactly. We agreed to limit our visible military presence. 150 patrol vessels, low-grade technology, nothing that could be perceived as threatening. The Senate's records were quietly edited to downplay what happened with the Vrixians. Everyone agreed to pretend humanity had simply startled some explorers with primitive weapons. But we never actually stopped building. We couldn't afford to. The galaxy is dangerous, Elena. Species like the Kryloth exist everywhere. If we'd actually limited ourselves to 150 ships, we'd have been conquered or exterminated within a generation. So we built in secret. We maintained the facade. And we waited. Elena looked at the holographic display showing the Leviathan. What happens now? Parliament is voting today. The motion to revoke the Peaceful Integration Accord has enough support to pass. Once that happens, we have 72 hours before the restrictions lift officially. Why the delay? To give you one more chance. One final diplomatic push. If the Senate changes its mind, if they agree to actual military intervention against the Kryloth, we can keep the accord in place. We can maintain the status quo. Elena laughed bitterly. They're not going to change their minds, Chin. You saw them in there. They think we're weak. They think we're a joke. I know. But we have to try. That's what separates us from species like the Kryloth. We exhaust every peaceful option before we resort to violence. Elena's datapad vibrated with an incoming message. She read it and felt her blood turn cold. The Kryloth are mobilizing a major fleet. Intelligence says they're targeting the frontier colonies. 80,000 civilians, Chin. Including. Her voice broke slightly. Including New Terra. Where my son is stationed. Chen's expression softened. How old is Marcus now? 23. He's a teacher at the primary school in Landing City. When I told him he should evacuate, he said the children needed him. Elena wiped her eyes. He's just like his father was. Too damned brave for his own good. How long do we have? 4 days before the Kryloth fleet arrives. Chin nodded slowly. Then you have 1 day to make your second appeal to the Senate. I'll start moving assets into position. If Parliament votes yes, if the accord is revoked, we'll have our ships in place to defend the frontier colonies before the Kryloth arrive. Elena stood. And if the Senate still refuses? Then they'll learn what humanity looks like when we stop being polite. The next morning, Elena requested an emergency Senate session. Senator Vrianael granted it with obvious irritation. The chamber was barely half full. Most delegates considered the matter closed. Elena stood at the podium again, her carefully prepared speech abandoned. Instead, she spoke from the heart. Members of the Senate, I'm not here to beg. I'm here to warn you. The Kryloth Dominion is mobilizing 80,000 warships for an attack on the frontier colonies. 80,000 civilians will die if this attack succeeds. My son will be among them. She paused, looking around the chamber at the delegates who bothered to pay attention. 180 years ago, humanity agreed to limit our military presence to avoid frightening the galaxy. We've honored that agreement every single day since. But that agreement was predicated on the Senate providing collective security. You're not providing that security. You're offering sympathy and censures while our people die. So I'm here to tell you that if you don't act, Earth will. We will revoke the Peaceful Integration Accord. We will defend ourselves with every resource at our disposal. And when the galaxy asks why we kept secrets for so long, we'll tell them the truth, that we were afraid you couldn't handle the reality of what humanity is capable of. Senator Vrianael's mandibles clicked rapidly. Are you threatening this Senate, Ambassador? No, Senator. I'm begging you not to force us into a choice we don't want to make. Please. Just send a Senate peacekeeping force to the frontier colonies. Show the Kryloth that civilian slaughter has consequences. That's all we're asking. Silence filled the chamber. For a moment, Elena thought she might have reached them. Then War Master Threxvor stood. The Senate does not respond to fear-mongering. The Kryloth Dominion will conduct its operations as it sees fit. If humanity wishes to oppose us, you are welcome to try. The vote was called. 420 senators voted to maintain diplomatic pressure. 60 voted for military intervention. The rest abstained. Elena's datapad vibrated. A message from Earth. Parliament voted yes. 1,847 to 153. The accord is revoked. Tell them we're coming. She looked up at Senator Vrianael. At War Master Threxvor. At all the delegates who had dismissed humanity as weak, as irrelevant, as a species that existed at the galaxy's mercy. Then I have one last message to deliver, Elena said. From the United Nations Security Council and the Parliament of Earth to this august body, the Peaceful Integration Accord is hereby revoked, effective 72 hours from now. After that point, humanity will no longer hide its capabilities. We will defend our people with the full strength of our military forces. She gathered her materials and walked out of the chamber, leaving behind a Senate that had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. Behind her, she could hear the laughter starting again. They wouldn't be laughing for long. The revelation. The 72-hour countdown began at midnight, Earth Standard Time. Across human space, orders that had been prepared for generations started moving through encrypted channels. Military commanders opened sealed directives that their predecessors had maintained for decades. Civilian administrators at research stations and mining facilities received activation codes they'd been trained to use but never expected to need. Admiral Chin Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UNSC Leviathan, watching Jupiter's swirling clouds through the forward viewport. For 60 years, this dreadnought had hidden behind the gas giant, its emissions masked by Jupiter's radiation, its mass concealed within the signatures of the planet's many moons. Engineers had maintained her systems in perfect readiness, running silent drills, cycling crew rotations, waiting for a day that might never come. That day had arrived. "All departments report ready status, Admiral," said Commander Park, the Leviathan's executive officer. "Engineering shows green across the board. Weapons systems are charging. The crew is at battle stations." Chin nodded. "Status of the fleet? 41 dreadnoughts are powering up as planned. 7 orbital defense platforms around Earth have dropped their civilian disguises. The Saturn construction yards have ceased all cover operations. They're launching the last batch of destroyers now. Across 800 star systems, our hidden assets are coming online." A holographic display showed the scope of it. Throughout human-controlled space, installations that had masqueraded as civilian infrastructure for generations were revealing their true nature. The Asteroid Mining Collective, in the belt between Mars and Jupiter? Actually, a naval academy and training facility with defensive batteries that could engage threats from multiple vectors. The Commercial Shipping Hub at Titan? A logistics center capable of supplying entire battle groups. The Atmospheric Research Station orbiting Venus? A signals intelligence complex that had been monitoring galactic communications for 8 decades. And the ships. Thousands upon thousands of ships. "Ma'am," called the sensor officer, Lieutenant Xiang. "We're detecting activation signals from the scattered fleet." Chin smiled. The scattered fleet, 20,000 vessels that had been disguised as derelict ships, abandoned stations, even asteroids. Humanity had learned decades ago that the galaxy had blind spots. No one paid attention to space junk, to failed colonies, to the debris fields left behind by extinct civilizations. So Earth had hidden an entire navy in plain sight, ships powered down to minimal signatures, crews in rotating stasis, waiting. "Order all scattered fleet vessels to begin station-keeping maneuvers. I want them visible on long-range sensors. Let the galaxy see what we've been keeping in reserve." "Aye, Admiral." Chin pulled up the tactical display showing the frontier colonies. 4 days away if you use standard faster-than-light drives. The Kryloth fleet was already en route, 80,000 warships, the largest single attack force the Dominion had ever assembled. They intended to make an example of humanity, to show the galaxy what happened to species that defied them. They had no idea what they were flying into. "Communications, open a channel to Ambassador Vasquez." Elena's face appeared on the screen. She was still at the Senate complex, where news of humanity's military awakening was causing chaos. Behind her, Chin could see Senate guards running through corridors, their weapons drawn despite having no idea what they were preparing to fight. "Admiral," Elena said. "The Senate is in emergency session. They're demanding explanations. Senator Vrianael is threatening to declare humanity in violation of Senate law for concealing military assets." "Let him threaten. By the time they figure out what to do, this will be over." "How's the mood there?" "Panic mostly. Some species are recalling their ambassadors. Others are requesting immediate meetings with our delegation. The Kryloth representative left an hour ago, I assume to warn his government that the situation has changed." "Good. Let them know we're coming. Maybe they'll reconsider their attack." "Chin." Elena hesitated. "My son is still on New Terra. You're sure you can get there in time?" "Elena, we've been planning for this scenario for generations. We know exactly where every human colony is, exactly how long it takes to reach them, exactly what forces we need to defend them. Marcus is going to be fine. You have my word." The transmission ended. Chin turned back to her crew. "Helm, plot a course to the frontier colonies. Maximum speed." "Course plotted, Admiral. ETA is 96 hours at maximum FTL. The Kryloth will arrive in 98 hours. That gives us 2 hours to prepare the battlefield. Execute." The Leviathan's engines came fully online for the first time in 6 decades. The dreadnought pulled away from Jupiter, her massive bulk becoming visible to every sensor array in the solar system. She was beautiful and terrible, 5 kilometers of human engineering, bristling with weapons that represented 200 years of advancement beyond standard galactic technology. Behind her, 41 sister ships emerged from their hiding places. Around Saturn, the construction yards launched their final products. 200 destroyers fresh from assembly, their crews eager and ready. From the Kuiper Belt, from the Oort Cloud, from hidden facilities in the asteroid belt, humanity's navy gathered. It was the largest fleet ever assembled by Earth. And the galaxy was about to see it for the first time. On New Terra, in the frontier colonies, Marcus Vasquez stood in his classroom, trying to keep 23 7-year-olds calm while their world prepared for war. The evacuation sirens had been wailing for hours, but the transport ships could only carry so many people at once. Priority went to the youngest, the elderly, the sick. Everyone else had to wait. Mr. Vasquez? Asked a small girl named Kira, her eyes wide with fear. Are the bad aliens really coming? Marcus knelt down to her level. Yes, Kira. But remember what we talked about? Our military is very strong. They're going to protect us. My daddy says we only have old ships, said another student, a boy named Tommy. He says the Kryloth have too many ships for us to fight. Your daddy doesn't know everything, Marcus said gently. None of us do. But I promise you, Earth isn't going to let anything happen to us. We just need to be brave a little longer. The classroom door opened. Maria Chin, the school's principal and niece of Admiral Rodriguez, entered. Marcus, we've got space on the next transport. 25 seats. Get your class to the landing pad. What about you? I'll be on the last transport out. Someone has to make sure everyone gets away safely. Now go. Marcus gathered his students, checking that each one had their emergency pack. As they filed out of the classroom, heading for the transports that would carry them to safety, he looked back at the school. He taught here for 3 years. He loved this place, this colony, these people. The thought that it might all be ash in a few days made him sick. The Kryloth fleet emerged from FLT at the edge of the frontier colony system 98 hours after leaving their home territory. War Master Threxvor stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, and surveyed the tactical display with satisfaction. 80,000 warships. It was overwhelming force, far more than needed to conquer these primitive human settlements. But Threxvor wanted to send a message. The humans had dared to challenge the Dominion. They had embarrassed the Kryloth in front of the entire Senate. This would teach them humility. Scan the system, Threxvor ordered. Locate all human assets. We'll destroy the military targets first, then proceed to pacification of the colonies. The sensor officer's display lit up with contacts. Lots of contacts. War Master. I'm reading multiple vessels in orbit around the primary colony world. Designations, unknown. They're not in our database. Threxvor leaned forward. How many vessels? 3, War Master. But they're large. Very large. Mass readings suggest they're each comparable to a heavy battle station. Bring us in closer. 3 ships against 80,000. The humans are either insane or desperate. The Kryloth fleet advanced into the system, weapons charging, shields raised. As they closed range, the 3 mysterious vessels came into clear view on the scanners. They were unlike anything in the Kryloth database. Each one was 5 kilometers long, shaped like a wedge, every surface covered in what appeared to be weapons emplacements. Their energy signatures suggested power outputs that should have been impossible for mobile vessels. War Master, the communications officer said nervously, we're receiving a transmission. It's from Admiral Chin Rodriguez of the United Nations Space Command. Display it. Admiral Chin appeared on the screen. She stood on what was clearly a military bridge, surrounded by crew members in crisp naval uniforms. Behind her, through viewports, the 3 massive vessels were visible. War Master Threxvor, Chin said, her voice calm and cold. I am Admiral Sarah Chin Rodriguez, commanding the Earth Defense Fleet. You are hereby ordered to retreat from this system immediately. The frontier colonies are under our protection. Threxvor laughed. Admiral, you command 3 ships. I command 80,000. Withdraw now and I will allow you to survive. War Master, those are not 3 ships. Those are 3 dreadnoughts. And they're not alone. The sensor display exploded with new contacts. Ships appeared throughout the system. Hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands. They emerged from behind planets, from within asteroid fields, from positions that should have been impossible to reach undetected. The sensor officer's voice was shaking. War Master, I'm reading 42 dreadnoughts. 320 capital ships. Thousands of smaller vessels. Total count is over 40,000 combat-capable ships. Threxvor stared at the display. That's impossible. The humans have 150 patrol boats. Our intelligence. Your intelligence was incomplete, Chin interrupted. Deliberately so. For 180 years, humanity has hidden our true military capabilities to avoid frightening the galaxy. But you killed our people. You laughed when we begged for help. So now you get to see what humanity looks like when we stop pretending to be weak. This is a trick. Some kind of censored deception. The UNSC Leviathan opened fire. What happened next would be analyzed by military historians for generations. The Leviathan's primary weapons were magnetic accelerator cannons, massive railguns that fired projectiles at relativistic speeds. When these projectiles hit Kryloth shields, they didn't dissipate like energy weapons. They punched through, carrying kinetic energy that even advanced shielding couldn't fully disperse. The first volley destroyed 17 Kryloth battleships. The second volley took out another 24. By the time Threxvor's tactical officer could process what was happening, 41 ships were gone. Simply gone, reduced to expanding clouds of debris and escaping atmosphere. All ships, attack formation. Threxvor roared. Concentrate fire on those dreadnoughts. But the human fleet was already moving. The smaller vessels, destroyers and frigates that somehow moved faster than anything the Kryloth had ever seen, streamed forward, their weapons firing in coordinated volleys. Human point defense systems intercepted Kryloth missiles with 98% accuracy. Human electronic warfare systems jammed Kryloth targeting computers, making their return fire wild and ineffective. And the dreadnoughts kept firing. The battle lasted 6 minutes and 43 seconds. When it was over, 4,000 Colossal warships had been destroyed. Another 1,000 were disabled, their crews evacuating in escape pods that the human fleet carefully avoided targeting. The remaining 75,000 ships of the Kryloth fleet hung motionless in space, their commanders paralyzed with shock. Admiral Chin broadcast again, her message reaching every Kryloth vessel simultaneously. War Master Threxvor, you have two choices. Order your fleet to retreat immediately, or I will destroy every single ship you command. The human colonies are not yours to attack. The civilian populations you threatened are under Earth's protection. You will not touch them. Threxvor looked at his tactical display. 4,000 ships gone in 6 minutes. His vaunted fleet, the pride of the Dominion, had been shattered by an enemy that wasn't supposed to exist. Retreat, he whispered. Then louder, all ships retreat. Fall back to Kryloth space immediately. The fleet turned and fled. As they jumped to FTL, every captain carried with them the same horrifying knowledge. Humanity had been holding back for 180 years. And now the galaxy would pay the price for making them reveal themselves. The news reached the Galactic Senate within hours. Delegates who had dismissed Elena's warnings, who had laughed at humanity's pretend military, now watched footage of the battle with growing horror. Senator Vrianael convened an emergency session. The chamber was completely full for the first time in decades. Every species wanted to understand what they were dealing with. Elena stood at the podium again, but this time no one was laughing. Members of the Senate, she began, I will not say, I told you so, because there's no satisfaction in being right about this. Yes, humanity has maintained a hidden military force. Yes, we deliberately concealed our capabilities. We did this because 180 years ago, when we tried to be honest about our strength, you almost went to war with us out of fear. She pulled up historical footage from the Vrixian incident. The delegates watched as a single human patrol ship disabled 17 vessels in 90 seconds, footage that had been classified for generations. This is what happened during first contact. We were trying to establish boundaries. You perceived it as aggression. So we made a choice. We would hide our strength and integrate peacefully. We would show you only what you could handle. We would be patient and careful and gentle. But the Kryloth killed 42,000 of our people. We asked for help. We followed every protocol, every procedure. And you offered us sympathy and censures while our colonies burned. Elena's voice hardened. So yes, we revealed ourselves. And yes, we defended our people with overwhelming force. Because that's what you forced us to do when you refused to act. Senator Vrianael's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. Ambassador Vasquez, this Senate demands a full accounting of all human military assets. We demand immediate inspections of all facilities. We demand. You demand nothing, Elena interrupted. The Peaceful Integration Accord is revoked. Humanity is no longer bound by the restrictions we voluntarily accepted. We will continue to honor Senate law, we will continue to participate in galactic commerce, and we will continue to work toward peace. But we will not hide anymore. And we will not allow our people to be slaughtered while bureaucrats debate proper protocols. She looked around the chamber at the hundreds of delegates who had ignored her pleas. You had a choice. You could have helped us. You could have shown the galaxy that attacking civilians has consequences. Instead, you forced us to protect ourselves. Every species that watched the Battle of New Terra now knows what humanity is capable of. That's on you, not us. The chamber erupted in arguments, accusations, demands. But Elena could see the fear in their eyes. The galaxy had discovered that the weak, harmless humans they'd dismissed for generations were actually the most powerful military force any of them had encountered. And they had no idea what came next. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy's power structure shifted dramatically. The Kryloth Dominion requested immediate peace negotiations, offering reparations and the return of all occupied territories. 17 other aggressive species that had been testing boundaries suddenly withdrew their forces and became very interested in diplomatic solutions. Admiral Chin stood on the Leviathan's bridge, reviewing casualty reports from the Battle of New Terra. Human losses, 0. The fleet had performed exactly as designed, exactly as trained. 200 years of careful preparation had paid off. Admiral, Commander Park said quietly, we're receiving requests from 43 species asking for defense pacts. They want human ships stationed in their territories. Of course they do, Chin replied. They're afraid. Some are afraid of species like the Kryloth. Others are afraid of us. Either way, fear is driving their decisions. Are we going to accept these requests? Chin thought about the Peaceful Integration Accord, about the promise humanity had made to hide their strength and integrate gently. That promise was broken now. The galaxy knew what Earth could do. We'll accept defensive pacts with species that genuinely need protection. But no offensive alliances. No joining territorial disputes. We didn't reveal ourselves to become the galaxy's mercenaries. What about the Senate? They're voting next week on regulations for concealed military assets. Chin smiled grimly. Let them vote. We'll follow whatever laws they pass going forward. But we're not going to apologize for surviving. On New Terra, Marcus Vasquez stood outside his school, watching as evacuation transports returned the children to their families. Kira ran to her parents, crying with relief. Tommy hugged his father, who lifted him up and spun him around. The colony had survived. The Kryloth had fled. And everyone knew that Earth's military, the real military, not the token peacekeeping force, had saved them. Marcus's datapad chimed with a message from his mother. I'm proud of you for staying. I'm proud of the Navy for protecting you. And I'm tired of lying. No more secrets. No more pretending to be weak. We are what we are, and the galaxy will have to accept that. Marcus looked up at the sky, where human warships still patrolled in defensive formations. Those ships had been there all along, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the day they'd be needed. That day had come. And humanity had proven that sometimes, the most dangerous species is the one that chooses peace, but never forgets how to fight. The silent arsenal was silent no more. The end.